Hi, this is Melanie Brotherton. This is Chapter 3 in the Ethical Education Leadership in Turbulent Times. This chapter is entitled Turbulence Theory. It started on a New Year's Eve flight. Steve Gross loved flying. He had been an avid flyer his entire life. He came from a family of flyers. His dad was a fighter pilot. He goes on a trip and he encounters an elderly couple, and they have a fear of flying. They're scared, and he starts telling them with his confidence of flying of how it's just as safe. They were safer on the plane than they were in the car on the ride over. And then the plane experiences some turbulence, and he tries to play that off to them like, oh, well, that was bad, but I mean, we just got a little dinner spilt on us. And on the inside, he's scared, but on the outside, he's maintaining his cool, calm behavior with the people because the elderly man, he's actually crying. But this event changed the way he felt about flying for the rest of his life. He actually dreaded going on flights. He went to the world's biggest bookstore in Toronto, Canada, and he was doing some research on initiating serious innovation in a public school. Well, he finds a book on his way out in the how-to section, a manual for beginning pilots. He makes a correlation in his research and the turbulence that he experienced that changed his behavior towards flying. He's reading it and he starts to apply it to what he's doing at the time, which was a research on a school that was having, some problems. They had brought in another school, um, and they weren't really clicking and getting along in their process. There was a lot of things going along, and some people liked the way what was happening, and others didn't. Some people were having a hard time, others weren't, and they were colliding on this. So he was doing research on this school, and he starts to use what he finds in this manual to correlate that in his thoughts of what he's doing at the time. So he begins to apply this turbulence in the book to the situations um, in schools. He researches using metaphors of brooks. He actually sees some leaves and twigs going down a brook that he's actually watched all his life. And he notices how different twigs might circle a different way, and others may go straight down. Um, he studies this turbulence and he starts to apply it to his own theories. And this is where he come up with the positionality. The positionality theory acknowledges that people have multiple overlapping identities. Same twigs in the brook, but they might swirl and go down a different way, and thus making meaning from various aspects of their identity, including their social class, professional standing, and so forth. Well, we have different groups that exist in our organization. You have younger students, older students, staff, faculty, administration, parents. How might the current turbulence affect each of them? You have to look at the individual. What different demographic exists in our organization? Gender, race, social class, neighborhood, English as a second language, special education. Um, in each group, what might their perspectives be? How do they feel about it? What do we know about individual situations? How might this alter the way this turbulence is perceived? Everybody acts in different ways, just like the leaves. All of them didn't go the same way. They turned and twisted, they might get stuck. He's applying this to people with his theory, and which is right. Everybody, it depends on their situation and how they react to certain turbulence. Next, you have cascading, the second addition to the turbulence theory, coming from Gross' examinations of flowing water, which was cascading. Adding this concept of cascading to turbulence theory helped Gross to understand dynamic forces within organizations in a richer context. Understanding cascading in the manner of understanding context and the force of the series of turbulent conditions. Next is stability. Now, to summarize stability, it includes three ingredients. First, things are stable in relation to the forces acting upon them. Stability is only a relative, not an absolute condition. Second is achieving and maintaining stability requires flexibility and change. This may sound ironic, but it is clearly the case. Third, at some point, stability will always give way to sufficient dynamic force acting upon it. This is the problem facing designers. What it is likely to threshold a given structure is ever going to face. Normally, one would build for something reasonable beyond that level, but that is not as simple as it sounds because conditions change. Everything's not going to be the same. People change, people's way of thinking changes. So, you have to keep in with that when you're talking about stability. Okay, the three forces combined, they impact systems, both physical and human, increase and decrease turbulence. They're important to view the forces in combination with one another and not in isolation to grasp their effect on turbulence levels. They're asking simple questions such as, how are different people in this situation experiencing events? What has happened in this organization in recent past? How stable are things? These questions can go a long way in starting the process of seeing these forces as powerful drivers of turbulence. Turbulence theory's relationship to chaos theory. Both theories focus upon the combined importance of seemingly small changes, remembering the detail and pattern matter, especially in complex systems. Both make us think about the flow of the life from seemingly instability to renewed and transformed models of stability. Both have elements in the natural world with strong parallels in our organizational lives. Turbulence is designed to help us with micro and macro human organizations. Multiple ethical paradigms makes it operational for people in organizations to employ it when they wish to observe, plan, and act. The turbulence theory recognizes complexity, but it is constructed to provide useful tools to help those employing it to flow with rapid, evolving change, thereby taking advantage of its benefits and minimizing its potential for harm. Turbulence theory as a metaphor. The turbulence theory is a metaphor for both the episodic and continuing forces that we live with each day in our organizations. Each successful metaphor is each well considered theory illuminates an aspect of reality coinciding with this illumination. Each metaphor is simultaneously obscures something of reality. The turbulence theory illuminates levels of change in our organization and helps us to frame them. But it's important to know that Morgan said that it is not that you shouldn't look at this through one. This is not a all-purpose point of view. That the application of the turbulence theory is intended to add a new dimension to our understanding of organizational life and our understanding of the forces surrounding the ethical dilemmas. Guidance for the application of turbulence theory. Key variables include contextual forces such as positionality, stability, and the possibility of cascading of events, the degree of turbulence in any given situation, and the possible consequences of a changed level of turbulence in any given situation. The security versus civil liberties in Chapter 4. Case study 4.1, protecting young children in terrifying times. Ida Rodriguez was a daycare director of a private school in Lower Manhattan. Um, During the attack on the Twin Towers, the question is asked: was she within her rights to keep the kids and not release them to the parents, to make sure that the parents were calm? And I believe that she was, because during those times, I mean, the parents were scared. Um, the first time that we've been attacked from outsiders and we're attacked on our soil. So in order to keep the children safe, it would be the best thing to see what mental state that the parents are in and calm them down, to keep the situation at a minimum for the children, because her first priority is the children. So I think under the circumstances, the fear could have caused some to act irrationally. You don't know how someone's going to act when they think, well, we could all die. While the children were under her care, she was to maintain consistency and make sure the children were taken care of. So, keeping the workers there and making sure that all of the kids are accounted for would be her priority. And she's still maintaining her job, her paradigm of profession. The director should only tell students what they needed to know and keep the children calm. Remember, these are young children. I feel the director acted in a professional manner and did what she had to do to keep things flowing in a normalcy. To increase this turbulence, she could have reacted to the fear of the unknown of the terrorist attack, and just started, you need to come get your children, but she did not, because that would only add to the chaos that was going on around this time when people were trying to get through and get people out of the building, and emergency people were trying to evacuate places. It would only add to that chaos. So I feel that she did the right thing in keeping the children protected and maintaining her director status. She could have started sending kids home, but yeah, it would only add to the chaos. In the case study of 4.2, the bomb threat, real or a hoax, react or ignore. Principal Bellini parked her car outside this Dew Valley High School. It's just like any other day. Although her first year as in this administrative position had its share of grueling challenges. She apparently had a routine of walking in the hallway, making rounds in the hallway in the morning, and she finds a note, which is that there's a bomb. She weighs the outcome of, what she should do in finding or not finding a bomb. I think she has to consider the paradigm of care first, because this, whether it's a bomb or not a bomb, she can't second guess the safety of the students in her care. In the book, it views the ethic of justice as a secondary and to the other three paradigms, and I have to agree with that. That the others would come first, because she has to consider the students in this situation. You can't second guess something like that, because you don't know. Um, I think that in this, which one of the four paradigms would be most applicable in this dilemma? I would think would have to be care, because she has to keep them safe. So to keep the turbulence level down, Bellini could calmly evacuate the building and keep reporters at bay. But to increase the turbulence, she could alert the media, television stations. But by doing this, she's giving the person that left the note or bomb recognition that they're actually looking for. And it also creates a chaos by doing that, because you have some people that may just take off running and get hurt. or hide in areas that they shouldn't go to. So it's better to remain calm, and keep everything at a minimum, because if you heighten it, it also heightens it for the people that you're trying to keep safe. In Chapter 5, Power versus Accommodation in Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Gross described the curriculum as the learning agenda, instruction as the agenda is shared with students, and assessment as it means by which we determine the extent to which students have grasped that agenda. Curriculum and instruction dramatically related. They are also intertwined with issues of power and accommodation. Power refers to the ability to impose values, content, processes, rewards, and sanctions in setting the learning agenda, the curriculum, sharing that agenda, the instruction, and measuring uh, what may be called progress in relation to that agenda, the assessment. The accommodations is connected for many to special education laws that require changes in the classroom structures, physical and pedagogic, and approaches so that the whole class of learners can be included in the school setting instead of being segregated. Special education has changed in the instruction most clearly, but changes in assessments are evident, with extensions to the length of time on state tests. Special needs students may be given double time, or like time and a half for their testing. And well, plus that extra time, whatever's given, should be done all of the time in the classroom. It has to be consistent. It just can't be for a state test. Instructional approaches such as the Gardner's multiple intelligence are used. That way, that you are finding out other ways that the child learns. That might be the child might be a visual learner or an auditory learner. Um, you know, some students have to actually touch things and move things to be able to grasp the concept. Okay, in the case study of 5.1, who should teach the classes? No one wants to teach. Host Smith, the head of the department, was asked to make a schedule and ask for teacher input. There were 15 members of the department. 14 were fairly satisfied with what they saw. One teacher that had been not been as pleased with the schedule was the department's newest member, Bod Simple, half-time teacher moving to a full-time position for the next year. Hope had scheduled Bob with 4 career classes and 2 advanced placement AP classes. At Winningham High School, career courses were for the students who had no intention of going to college. The career level curriculum desired to give students a balanced view of chemistry by exploring how it would serve them in the real world in which they lived. Most career students were unruly at best. Effective classroom management was at the core of any teacher's relative success as a teacher of career level classes. No one ever has jumped at the opportunity to teach a career level class, and most of them dreaded the courses to teach. However, at Winningham, it was a necessary evil that some teachers simply had to do this. A colleague, Ivan, he is a 15 member. He gets upset because he says that it's not fair to give the new person this, but yet he doesn't want to teach them either. He's a 15-year member and writes a response to the schedule and places these responses in areas where others outside of the department could see it. He thinks that that they're giving Bob the classes as a new member. He speaks about other members in derogatory ways. Um, I find this is that he wanted his way, but he didn't want to do it himself. I think that this is an example of moderate turbulence. If Hope doesn't allow teacher input, the level of turbulence would increase. That is when finding that with from her questions to the members of the department. I think that a rotation of the classes would be fair way to assign the classes. They obviously need a policy on how to assign these classes because it seems to be something that's coming up every year on who gets the class. So I think that it's clearly should be a rotation because sooner or later everyone becomes tenured. Um, and what do you do then? There would be no one to teach them. The department should develop a policy and present it to the principal and hopes that it's one that is fair to all, as like a rotation would be. And you kind of know that it's coming your way. It's just kind of like a teacher that has the low students all of the time. That's not fair either. It should be on a rotation. Honestly, I don't think it should be done like that, but in some cases it is. It continues to happen today, and it's not where it's a benefit of the students because you can't place all low students in one classroom and expect them to have a model because they're all low. You have to have high, medium, and low to be able to push the students that are low up to where, maybe we're the medium to where the high. I think that that is the best overall blend of a classroom. In case study 5.2, authentic education or a threat to the organization. In this case, Danny doesn't teach in a traditional way. He's a new hire. He's from out of town. Most people there are from that area, have lived there their entire life. The area is conservative, and he has his students act, and he doesn't use a book, and that they want him to go in a conservative way and teach a certain way. On the school's part, the turbulence is a moderate, but for the teacher, I would say that it is severe because he's asked to stop the way that he teaches, which can cause a cascading for the teacher. With the principal's request, not only is Danny being silenced, but so are the students. Danny was allowing them to think outside the box while using higher order thinking skills. Danny would have benefited really from slowly adding his style of teaching to gain trust from his colleagues. I think that would have best served this situation if he gained the trust, showed that he could teach the way that they wanted him to, and then slowly changed to his way of teaching because being a new person, a lot of times colleagues look to see if, are they doing what they need to be doing? Are they doing what we're doing? Are they doing more? Are they doing less? They're on site for everybody to view and make decisions about, even though sometimes it's not even their decisions to make. In the case study 5.4, an elite curriculum versus a useful curriculum, Dr. Gaines wanted to initiate a useful curriculum that possibly would allow the community to buy into the school curriculum. With the community support, she may be able to raise money. Without community support, she's limited to the funds. Dr. Gaines, as far as allowing there to be less turbulence, could allow for input from the faculty, staff, and community leaders on what is important and should be added to the curriculum. Allowing input would bring less turbulence in this situation. Using her dynamic forces, which is the cascading within the organization, to help drive the curriculum to a useful curriculum. She has shown care to her staff because she didn't uh, clearly go in and start changing things around. She recognized the need for they wanted to leave things the way they were. Clearly, the vision was not something that she felt was the vision that the school should have. It is not in the students' interest to deny them a high status curriculum. They're losing out in this one. Denying and keeping the curriculum as it is can only be for the faculty because they don't want the change. There were only a few that wanted the change. If the school had a university wide curriculum policy, the policy would have to be followed or change before changes could be made to the curriculum. And that might help because you can add changes and change a policy. And that might help because this curriculum seems to be that's the way they want it to stay as is with no change, which they're outside of that school. They're not buying into it. They don't even send their students there, their children there. So there has to be some changes, or the school's going to maintain their status of going nowhere.